Now, with 2024 bringing plenty of New Year's resolutions, the extra point, it's staying the exact same. And it all starts right now. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point. We're back in the studio. It is the beginning of the spring semester, and I'm your host, Griffin Barfield, back for another fun semester. I missed everybody, and it's good to be back in the chair talking some sports again. And today, I got another 4 panelists with me. Same old usual suspects, but they're ready to talk some sports. We got Daniel Dungan, Toby Coriston, David Poley, and Brian Warner. Guys, welcome back. I hope you guys were watching some sports because we got a lot to talk about, and that's going to be our first section of the show called This or That. It's a new little show, and we're kind of just recapping the things that happened over winter break. And why don't we start with the biggest bombshell of them all? And that is with all the coaching retirement that went on. We had so many coaches retire that meant a lot to either the college football community or the NFL community, and the two biggest ones were Alabama coach Nick Saban and New England Patriots coach Bill Belichick. So guys, for the first segment of This or That, which one meant more to you? Was it the Nick Saban retirement or the Bill Belichick retirement? Who wants to start?
I'll start. I got it written down. Nick Saban. First of all, they both had incredible careers. I think there's some arguments that they were both carried by greatness, which isn't a bad argument. But Nick Saban, in his time at Alabama, he produced 123 NFL draft picks. He never really had a down year. He was always right around the college football playoffs. He went out in the college football playoffs. Some say that maybe he should have waited until he won another one. But being a top 4 team at the end of the year is a good way to go out still, even though it's not the caliber that he wanted to be at. He had a great career, nothing against Bill Belichick, but his was just that much better.
Yeah, I'll agree. I would have mine written down, but I just realized moments before the show that my marker doesn't work. So I'm going to freeball this one, and I'm going to go with Nick Saban. Completely agree. I think the ripple effect that he's caused in college football has not only supported this fact, because it just means so much that now Kalen DeBoer is the head coach at Alabama, which I don't think anybody would have saw coming, not even Kalen DeBoer, who was coaching NIA not even 15 years ago. But Saban, he was so great. I mean, the Belichick-Brady argument will always be there on who did more for that dynasty. Nobody did more for the Alabama program resurrection than Nick Saban.
You're good, Daniel?
As a Patriots fan, personally, I got to say it's Bill Belichick means more to me. It's the end of an era. The dynasty's been dead for about 3 years, but Belichick was probably the last major piece of that dynasty. And I'm just appreciative of 6 Super Bowls, 10 appearances. Barely any other coaches come close to that. Saban is a great coach. I think that was more shocking to me, is that he's going to retire, but they did kind of hint at it. Belichick leaving, that wasn't as shocking. 3 of the last 4 years were losing seasons, so they needed a change. And they respectfully, Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick got together and made the separation in the most respectful way possible. So I'm happy with Gerard Mayo too. So, yeah.
So I think I'm going to have to go with Saban. I wanted to put on here low tide low because at the moment before Kalen DeBoer was hired, it was a pretty low tide. I remember seeing all my friends that had gone over to Alabama, and they're all like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I didn't believe it was happening. I thought, Saban's going to be there for maybe another 2 years. Kind of retire on top. He was pretty close. Maybe he was like 1 or 2 players away. Now all these players are leaving. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to bring it back up. Will they have the immediate success? I think they could. He has a really good record. But I think Saban was more impactful to me. I just thought it was funny when, like, the day after I saw a meme, and it's a picture of Bill Belichick at an Alabama pro day, and he's talking to Nick Saban, and they're talking, and the picture's like Saban telling Belichick something. He's like, no, I'm going to retire, and then you retire 24 hours later, and we're going to shock the whole world. And so I thought that was like a really funny thing, but I think Saban was more impactful.
I mean, no matter how you do it, I mean, Saban won 6 national titles. Bill Belichick won 6 Super Bowls. But, I mean, Daniel, I have to agree with you. I think Nick Saban's was a little bit more shocking. I think, maybe you saw like a Duke Mike Krzyzewski, like a whole farewell tour of a whole year. That's what I thought was going to happen. I didn't really expect an abrupt retirement. But, best of luck to both of them. They'll still be around their respective franchise or university. So that's not the last we're going to see of them for sure. But next up, we'll move into the NFL. We are in the NFL postseason, which means that we are now talking about the NFL award races. And I believe when we were going into winter break, it was either Brock Purdy or Christian McCaffrey, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts. I don't know who was the front runner, but now it's basically Lamar Jackson. And, the numbers show it. He has a very good chance to get it. So this or that, pretty broad. Is Lamar Jackson going to be the MVP, or is there somebody else that someone else deserves it more than Lamar? Who do you guys think deserves that?
I mean, I can start us off,
I mean, you're the Ravens fan.
Striking early this year.
You could kick
Bias Brian right into it.
I will go Lamar. And in all honesty, like, as much you get in Twitter stuff, you read Twitter stuff. Now, I never respond on Twitter because, you got to keep
I would love to see you in a Twitter war.
Oh, my goodness.
But, you want to sit there and people go, oh, I remember this was, I think, right before the playoff game. They're like, Dak should win it because he got 4, and, and then you hear Christian McCaffrey. The only person that has an argument, I would say, is Christian McCaffrey. He's very good, but I still believe it's Lamar. Christian McCaffrey, and I saw a post, Christian McCaffrey's on a team where 5 people, including the quarterback, finished with over 1,000 purpose yards. 2 of them finished with over 2,000 yards. That's 2 receivers and a tight end. Christian McCaffrey as the running back, and Brock Purdy as the quarterback. And even if you put together all the total yards that Lamar has, I believe I know he has more than Dak. I think it's like 4,479 to like 4,459. And I believe he has more than Brock Purdy total yards. I get his passing stats isn't there, but the key word in this whole thing is valuable. And Lamar brings value to the Ravens and is a reason why people tune in onto Ravens games. It's why the Ravens have been pushed into many primetime games, and it's the reason why the Ravens now have a bye week. So that's my case for it. Not everyone agrees, but.
Realistically, just the way that the MVP works, I think it'll be Lamar. I'll still stick with what I said earlier in the year that Tyreek Hill should be the MVP because they showed up a stat during the playoff game that he was 8-0 when he had more than 100 yards. And when he didn't, it was less. It was like a losing record. But he's just a major central piece of the Dolphins. Jalen Waddle definitely helps out, but he's made Tua look a lot better this year. So.
I think let's establish, first off, that this is a quarterback's award. I don't see, unless it's an incredible record-breaking season, I think if Tyreek hadn't gotten hurt, he could have come close. But it's a quarterback's award. And I think it's between Lamar Jackson and one other quarterback, and I'm going to make sure I get these stats right. Who would you rather have?
Come on,
a quarterback with a better completion percentage, more than 1,000 yards, he had 1,000 more passing yards than Lamar Jackson. He had 200 more yards than Lamar Jackson total. So even if you bring in Lamar's running, he still had more yards. 9 more total touchdowns, a better touchdown to interception ratio, 1 more game played, higher in fantasy points than Lamar Jackson. Who are you taking in that situation?
Come on.
The other quarterback or Lamar Jackson?
Can I be specific?
Yes.
I would take the other one, but that's not the award.
Dak Prescott. Oh! Dak Prescott. I don't like to say it. But if you're asking me who's the most valuable player, played in all their games, had better stats than Lamar, led him not to the 1 seed, but a very strong position in the playoffs, and then was terrible, but it's not about the playoffs. It's Dak Prescott. He has the best stats, period.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yeah.
Who got shut down in prime time?
Doesn't matter.
Why are you talking about the
Only reason why I
playoffs?
say
Are you talking playoffs?
Packers game?
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count towards the MVP conversation. That doesn't count towards the MVP conversation.
CeeDee Lamb had over 1,600
That
yards.
doesn't.
Lamar has not one person on the entire roster over 1,000 yards other than him.
I have a question.
The closest is at 800 and it's
I just simply have a question.
Yes, sir.
Dak got shut down on primetime against the 49ers, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Lamar also got shut down by the Browns that one game.
No,
They
scored 31 points.
No, the first game when they lost to the Browns.
No, they beat the Browns 27-3.
They
The
beat-
only game that Lamar looks bad
What's
is
the
when
one-
his receivers dropped 8.
Yes,
catches.
that game. Yeah.
They dropped 8
not
catches
that
and
game.
3
Did they
touchdowns.
lose to the Bengals? Like, there's some
They
game where
lost to.
lost.
They had a
lost,
bad
okay.
loss.
They had a bad loss.
They lost to the Colts.
They had a bad
which
loss.
the defense gave up a field goal with 40 seconds
No,
left.
I'm talking about the one where they scored like no points. They lost like 20-something to like a little.
They didn't.
I know there's.
I don't believe
Toby,
that.
find me that
I'll
game.
find it.
I
I'll
don't
find it.
remember. They lost to the Steelers, the Colts, and they lost to who was it? It was
Let's
like
see.
week 5. Steelers, Colts are back in the Browns. Yeah, Steelers, Colts, Browns.
Yeah, you just said they didn't lose to the Browns.
They lost to the Browns one game and it was 33-31.
Yep.
What's the one game I'm talking about?
The defense gave up 14 points. The Steelers, his wide receivers dropped 8 catches, 3 of which were touchdowns and long touchdowns. So you're missing stats there.
They didn't get shut down.
No.
They never
Lamar
got
has
shut down.
never been shut
But
down.
Dak Prescott still has far and away better stats. Over 1,000 more passing yards.
But he's
and
not
like
valuable.
Lamar now.
400 more
But he's not valuable to
all-purpose
his
yards.
team.
He's absolutely valuable. He's the one throwing all those yards.
Cooper Rush
He's-
replaced him last year.
Okay.
He's the one throwing all
Wait,
those
let me
yards.
ask you this.
9 more total touchdowns.
Did you
he
watch-
had 63 more points than Lamar Jackson. He put up 63 more points than Lamar
Put up
Jackson.
16 in garbage time against a Packers defense that didn't have Jair
That
Alexander.
game doesn't matter.
I'm saying
that
stats-
game does not matter.
No. My reason for that was because stats aren't everything.
They were,
Like you said, Lamar
they
doesn't-
were the most dangerous team in
I
the
voted for
NFC
Lamar, by the way.
besides.
I'll just keep it short.
They had to play the Eagles twice this year.
Okay, yes, okay.
But
I'll let you, because it is your point.
no, it's fine. They were the most dangerous team in the NFC this year, besides the 49ers.
And who else is in the NFC?
The Eagles.
Literally, the Bucks are
The
in
Lions?
The Bucks are in the divisional round
Well,
because
yeah,
they won a 9-8 record.
because they beat the Eagles, who just completely fell apart, which is a whole nother story. But Dak Prescott has far and away the better stats. If you're looking at this just from the award standpoint, I'm not saying I'd rather have Dak Prescott like at my quarterback. I'm taking Lamar Jackson all day, every day. But the MVP
Flacco.
this season, give me Dak Prescott.
If you want to give the offensive player,
Give me Dak Prescott.
Go right ahead. But I don't know. I think valuable is a key word in that. That's where I'm looking.
MVP
But I
Joe
like-
Flacco. Next question.
I mean, yeah, that's. I was gonna say Joe Flacco, but here we are. But no, look, honestly though, I think it's Lamar. I think it's Lamar. I think he means the most to a team that has basically no standout key player on offense compared to what Dallas has. But I know I understand your point. They're very pass. Dallas are a very pass-heavy offense. That's just my take. I'm gonna move on from that because Toby's about to throw a marker at me. But next up, we're kind of still talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about the quarterback situation in Chicago. The Chicago Bears have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Caleb Williams is the consensus number 1 pick. But they have a first-round quarterback in Justin Fields. So this or that, are you going to choose Justin Fields for next season, or are you going to go to Caleb Williams and draft him and put all of your chips into his pile? Who do you guys believe will be the quarterback for Chicago next year?
Who I believe will be the quarterback, Caleb Williams. Who I believe should be the quarterback, Justin Fields. If I were Ryan Poles, the GM of the Chicago Bears, I allow somebody to trade up from 1, and I try to get to 2 or 3, right? I want either the Washington or the Patriots to trade up. I want them having that number 1 overall pick. So that way at 3, I can take probably the most generational wide receiver we've had in a long time, Marvin Harrison Jr. You get a Marvin Harris Jr., you give Fields one final thing, and if the season goes bad, you get to fire Matt Eberflus and everybody else you can clear out, and then you can go one more time, new coach, new quarterback next year, which the crop does not have a Caleb, but the crop is very good. The crop is very good next year for quarterbacks. You'll get somebody out of the college path. Caleb Williams, I don't trust him. I don't like him very much. I think Justin Fields is a great athlete, a great talent. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think it's worth another ride.
I agree with you a lot on a lot of those things, but I would trade Justin Fields as well. I want to get back another number 1 pick this year. If you can,
Probably, it'd probably be a 2.
If
you
you can,
do it for 2.
then it gets iffy. I think they could get a 1 from somebody, and if they can get a 1 from somebody, then yes, you take Marvin Harrison, and then you take a Michael Penix. somebody else in the draft that slips down the draft board, because one of the quarterbacks is going to have to slip somewhere. And I think you rebuild. I think you need to fire offensive coordinator and head coach.
Getsy's already fired. So Getsy's gone, I believe.
I feel like Greg Roman.
Then you fire Eberflus with him.
I think they should have fired Eberflus a long time ago. They let him have the winning streak after he started to call the defensive plays, and that's the only thing that's been saving his job. I think he's a terrible head.
I think he should be gone. I think they should do what the Texans did. Complete overhaul, start new, start young, because they have a little bit of a core that's pretty young that they can work around. And I think they just need a complete overhaul because the Bears have been the Bears for the last 8 years, and they just need to start new.
Yeah, I got to go with you. Trade down, take Marvin Harrison Jr., give Justin Fields one last shot. But Eberflus needs to go, especially now with all these great coaches available. But the other thing is, are those coaches going to actually want to coach Chicago?
So one of the biggest coaches on the market, probably the second or third, depending if you have him over Mike Vrabel, Jim Harbaugh wants, from everything I've heard, Jim Harbaugh wants to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears. He's going to end up in the Chargers because the Bears are choosing to ride with Matt Eberflus, which I think is ridiculous.
Now, if you're the Bears in that situation, do you trade Justin Fields and let Harbaugh have his pick at quarterback?
Absolutely.
So
but you know who it's going to be if Harbaugh has his pick at quarterback.
It's going to be J.J. McCarthy.
It's the quarterback that just declared for the draft from the University of Michigan.
I don't know if Harbaugh's that stupid though.
I think he loves that.
Unless he can get him in the second round. If you can get J.J. McCarthy in the second round.
He's not going to take the kid at 1. It's probably going to be late first round, early second round.
If he slips that far, then I can take him.
If he gets the 9th pick in the second round, J.J. McCarthy,
Yes.
he goes there and goes Harrison Jr. at like 2 or 3, then I could see it.
I can see that. I like that.
So, first off, I think it'd be hilarious if Jim Harbaugh gets the job and then picks Marvin Harrison Jr. as number 1, Ohio State. Like, I think that would just be hilarious. All Michigan fans would probably hate him. They'd be
They'd be thrilled.
They'd be over. No, Bears fans would be happy, but I think it'd be funny.
Michigan fans wouldn't care.
Michigan fans don't care. They're glad he's out of Ohio State.
But to answer the question, I think it's going to be Justin Fields. I think they should ride with Justin Fields. I get the QB market. That's the only thing that's really kind of putting this in question, is that the QB market has skyrocketed so much. No help to Lamar, to
Jalen Hurts,
to Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Deshaun Watson, all that. But I do think they should do JF1. I think they should do Justin Fields. Now, I'm pretty much right on line with what David said. Trade back from the first, stay in the top 3, because I'm almost, personally at least, I'm almost sure Patriots will take a QB and Commanders will take a QB.
I'm almost positive Washington will. I feel more confident that Washington will take a quarterback than New England.
I don't know if I'd feel comfortable if I'm the Bears trading back to 3.
I would do 3
Really?
because I think if you trade with the Patriots, though, Patriots would have their open pick at a quarterback. They have a new system.
That being said, I think Gerard Mayo being hired, new coach, new everything, means they're going to take a quarterback.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
It's
I
going
think
to be
you're
that
right,
Texans overhaul.
He wants his guy to be the face. Yeah.
If it was Bill Belichick, I was thinking Drake May, but I still think the Patriots, I think Drake May would do better in that system, and I think Caleb Williams would do better with Washington, especially being from
It's
Washington.
going to be a new system, though, new
That's
OC,
true.
new everybody.
So-
like that. We got to see who that is.
But yes, so that is very true. But getting back, Justin Fields I would take, then I'll take Marvin Harrison at 3, and they have the 9th pick. So if Jim Harbaugh were to become the head coach, maybe he takes McCarthy there, because
If you take
I'm not saying
McCarthy
you should.
9th, you're fired.
McCarthy should not, but with all the run on quarterbacks, McCarthy, because of his national championship, will probably be inflated.
He handed
Jim
the
Harbaugh
ball
is-
off.
I think
how
he
many
takes a
how many
tackle.
yards did he pass for in the national championship?
No, I know.
120.
I'm not big. It's like I think it was maybe.
I'm bigger on J.J. McCarthy than most people. I think he's a good quarterback. You don't take J.J. McCarthy 9. If more than 3 quarterbacks go in the top 10 and the third quarterback is J.J. McCarthy, the NFL's lost its mind. Like, I don't think any responsible general manager would do that. I think, to your argument, I think you have a great argument. It's like you go Harrison at the top, and then you take an offensive lineman. You take a tackle. You take that Penn State guy or Joe Alt from Notre Dame if he's there. And then if it's Harbaugh, you take him in the second round. Although everything I've heard is no chance it's Harbaugh now because the Bears are keeping Eberflus, and Harbaugh's now pretty locked in on the Los Angeles Chargers.
Correct. So if I had to go with it, I'm thinking they're trading back a third. They're going to probably, I would think, maybe the Patriots are going to entice him with like 2 firsts, Christian Barmore, maybe some type of young talent on the defensive side, especially in the defensive front, because you have, I think the youngest might be, I don't know who the youngest is, but their best one right now is Montez Sweat, who's an edge.
You think they would give up Christian Barmore?
I think they would, instead of a first. I think. It could be completely wrong. I've seen that as a mock trade. It just is something to keep some of the picks so that you can rebuild.
It's just hard for me to see the Patriots ever trading up, even if it's
That's true.
taking a shot on a young quarterback.
Because you're still going to have your pick of your you still have a top-tier quarterback to pay.
If anything, I'd see him trade down.
Yeah.
Even though they have the.
That's a possibility that nobody talks about. That seems incredibly likely.
Almost always happens.
And I almost think like if Bears keep their first-round pick, which they very well could, they could choose Marvin Harrison first overall, which I would love to do because it's someone different than a quarterback going first. But I mean, he's deserving of it, I think, at least especially if you look at the system that he's going into, who has a good quarterback, at least a competent quarterback that's shown some highlights. He's not been in the greatest situation. Maybe you trade down to like the Broncos or Vikings at 11 and 12 with the 9th pick, and then you go and pick a quarterback that might fall. It all depends on how many are taken, how are the Bears feeling. Maybe they want to try and fake out everyone going, hey, we like Caleb Williams. Hey, we like Drake May. Let's, if you want us, you're going to have to pay for it. And then they switch it up. So I could see a bunch of ways, but I think Justin Fields will be the week 1 starter next year.
If I'm Chicago, I don't think you could screw this up. I really think that you have so many pieces that if you go Fields, you have the pieces to surround him with guys like you said, with like Marvin Harrison, or even if you don't get 3, you can get a guy like Neighbors or Duenze or someone around those lines. But if you have Caleb Williams, hey, maybe go for a guy in free agency, a tight end, a wide receiver, a star wide receiver. I don't really know. I mean, we'll find out obviously in upcoming weeks with the drafts being in about 3 months from now, which is nuts to think about.
T. Higgins hits a free market too.
T. Higgins as well.
And I also want to add to your point, like this wide receiver, everybody's talking about Marvin Harrison. This wide receiver class is loaded.
It is.
Neighbors, Adunze, a lot of other guys. I think you make a great point there.
I don't think you can really screw this up, especially in the wide receiver spot, even if I'm sure you could find a gem in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. My take. Anywho, next up, I mean, we talked about 2 of them already in that national championship winning team, but let's talk about Michigan. That team won the 2024 college football playoff, the last ever college football playoff, with 2 huge wins against Alabama in the Rose Bowl in an absolute classic, and then they took down Washington in the final in dominating fashion. So this or that question is this: which win was more important, memorable? Which one meant more to you? Their win against Alabama in the Rose Bowl, or their win against Washington to win the national title?
It's the national championship. The more important win is against Washington. They dominated that game. I don't think they looked great in the Alabama game. They found a way to win it. I don't think either of the teams looked great in that game. A muffed punt, couple turnovers here and there, and they dominated Washington pretty much. They took Penix out of the game. They ran all over them. That was a better win and a more important win because they won the national championship.
I think as ugly as the Bama game was, you're still beating one of the best coaches in college ever, and you outcoached him. But, winning a national championship, that's Harbaugh. It's like number 1. He hasn't gotten it yet. He finally gets it. Now he gets to go to the NFL. I like both games in terms of meaning, but I'd still have to stick with the Bama game.
Yeah, I think the Bama game was an instant classic that we'll remember for a really long time. Harbin, basically kills Saban in that game, but Harbaugh's leaving as well. I don't think that game matters as more as the national championship game. I don't think any game is going to matter as much as this national championship game, given the repercussions that it's going to have for college football, although you could argue that the Saban trickle-down has just as much of an impact. But I think the national championship is always going to matter the most.
I was beginning to write the B, and then I'm kind of thinking, they didn't really look sharp in Bama, but it's an important win. I mean, it was kind of like the nail in the coffin for Saban's career. That sounds bad. It's not like he had a bad career, bad ending, but it was kind of like that final, hey, Saban, people are kind of catching up, So that was a very important one, I think, for the landscape of college football. And obviously it was a great game to watch. But I think if you're looking at which one's more impactful for Michigan, I think it's Washington. This is the first
Yes.
Is it solo win, I guess you could call it?
Sole
national title.
Like, you are undisputed. That's what I was thinking. Undisputed national champion, because their last one was like 97.
97 when they split with
Who was it?
Nebraska.
Nebraska, yep. And so I think for Michigan's sake, it's more impactful for Washington. They showed that they aren't the chokers. And I have to apologize. I did say they were chokers. They proved me wrong. They almost fumbled it a few times like they did with those kicks. But they did it. They got there. Congratulations, Michigan. I actually kind of earned a little bit of respect, and I started liking Michigan a little bit. Dare I say it. But I do think the Washington game was more impactful and absolutely more memorable for the Wolverine fans, simply for the fact of what it gave them, what it kind of released off their shoulders. So hopefully they have a new restart with a new head coach, and I think they're going to at least stay competitive for it, especially with 12 teams.
If Penix could just complete some passes, the game would have been so much better.
They lost the game when he missed the fourth down to Adunze.
Yep.
Wide open touchdown. That was the nail in the coffin.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, both games were iconic. I mean, you can't count out the Rose Bowl. That's historic in itself. Any game in the Rose Bowl is historic, but obviously a first undisputed national championship. All hands up. I know with the whole Connor Stallions thing and the whole controversy that surrounded them, but both games were huge. It's a great run for Michigan. Congrats to them. Lastly, in terms of this or that, we got some more retirements. One coach, one player. On the coaching side, Seattle Seahawks coach Pete Carroll. I don't know if retire is the right word, but he's moving from a coach to the front office. And then as the player, Eagles center Jason Kelce, who has played for the team for the last 10 plus years, which is incredible, especially for a lineman position. So which one is a little bit more impactful, memorable? I mean, you could take it in however way you want. Jason Kelce or Pete Carroll?
I think if this were a true retirement, I would choose Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll has more impact. I think Jason Kelce is an argument to be the best center of all time. I think he does. But it's not clear and cut. I think a lot of people are saying he's just undisputedly the best center of all time. Recency bias. You can go back to the Raiders and the Steelers offensive lines of the 70s. Some of those great players like Mike Webster. Kelce, fantastic player. Pete Carroll did win a Super Bowl, right? And he's probably the best coach to do it at both levels. Had that dynasty at USC and then came to the NFL and won with Seattle, built a defense. It's a tough, really turn of events in that way, but I would go Jason Kelce here because Jason Kelce I think is really done. Pete Carroll, from what everything said, he said the GM and the new ownership of the Seahawks, he said they don't know football. And it was an anti-football move, and he didn't sound very happy in becoming, the senior assistant or whatever. So it's clear that he was forced out. So I don't rule out Pete Carroll being the head coach of another NFL team.
I really want to say something corny, like the Swift-Kelce relationship's over because DeAndre Swift and Jason Kelce, but obviously we don't know if it's true. He's still deciding. He said that on his New Heights podcast, but I'm going to go Batman. If anyone doesn't know, that's Jason Kelce. He dressed up as Batman one Halloween. First off, he's probably a really big miss for character in the NFL because he just brought so much to it, to every game. But I also think it was not only surprising to me, but it was also pretty surprising for just everyone, especially even Jason Kelce, who didn't even want to announce it yet. And it's also going to be impactful because he's that head of the tush push, of the brotherly shove. So now you're wondering, is the line going to – that's usually your anchor. The center's the anchor. So is the line going to take a step back for a little while? They do have a really good Nebraska center that they just drafted, Cam Jurgens. He was, 2 years ago, I think? Yeah. So maybe learning under Kelce is going to do well, but I think that was more of an impactful move than the Pete Carroll. Even though the Pete Carroll was kind of shocking, I do think Jason Kelce is going to be more impactful to the game, or for the Eagles.
I think Kelce was more impactful, more meaningful. What he's done for the city, the Super Bowl parade where he's on the stage screaming and stuff. And he's probably like one of the most likable players in the league. So him retiring is sad, but you could sort of see why he's getting older. Definitely one of the best centers ever. Pete Carroll's great head coach, won a Super Bowl too. But as you said, it was shocking, but he's still a part of the Seahawks. He's not truly retired, and honestly, he could go coach somewhere else.
I have to go hometown, Seattle. I have to go with Pete Carroll. He's one of the only he's one of 3 coaches to win a national championship and a Super Bowl. That's pretty impactful. He led one of the scariest secondaries in NFL history, Legion of Boom. So that just is a whole era in and of itself that I think every NFL fan will remember. But I did write in my notes that Jason Kelce was a dog. It means a lot that he's leaving to the Eagles organization, and I think it's hard to compare a head coach and a player. I think it just kind of depends on who you support more and what team you like.
Yeah, these guys, once again, 2 just incredible leaders, whether just on the field, on the sideline, no matter kind of how you differentiate, these are 2 incredible guys, and their presence on the football field or on the sideline is going to be missed, but yeah, best of luck to both of them. Kelce hasn't really officially retired yet. I kind of just threw that in there, but we'll see what happens with him for sure, Bo. Next up, we'll go into the NFL Pick'ems, 4 games for the divisional rounds. First one, the Saturday afternoon game. We got Brian's team, the Baltimore Ravens. They are making their playoff opener. They are hosting the red-hot Houston Texans. Just so much that happens there. The Texans with a huge win over the Browns in the wild card round to open up the playoffs. Who takes this one? Who goes to the AFC Championship game?
I'll save my opinion for last. I already talked about the Ravens, so anyone else want to start off?
I think even though C.J. Stroud torched the Browns, pretty impressive defense. Ravens also have an impressive defense, but I think a much better offense to contend with what Texans are going to put up against them. So give me the Ravens with a week off and more experience.
Give me the Texans. Let's go. Keep it rolling. I love C.J. Stroud. I love C.J. Stroud. This man, he put up statistically the best performance of any rookie quarterback in the playoffs ever. He absolutely dominated that game, and I think he's going to keep it rolling. Do I think the Ravens are going to be a lot tougher test? Absolutely. But they have a tendency to fall flat in the playoffs. And with this week bye, maybe it helps them. Maybe it pushes them forward. Maybe this extra time to prepare is exactly what they needed to not fall flat on their face. Or they're going to come out flat. C.J. Stroud's going to make a couple big plays to start the game. They're going to go up 14-0, and the Ravens are going to be looking lost. And C.J. Stroud's going to come in and dominate them. I think it's going to happen. I think there has to be an upset this week. There was only one technical upset last week. I think the bracket needs to get shifted a little bit, and I think the Texans are going to be the team to do it.
I think that not enough people are talking about the Texans, but I will still lean the Ravens heavy.
Honestly, Texans are really good. I'm going to be honest. Texans are really good. I love C.J. Stroud. And you got to think, a lot of people are saying, what, the Ravens beat the Texans before? Well, that was also the first week. Will Anderson hadn't gotten his feet under the ground. D'Amico Ryans hadn't gotten his feet underneath him.
Right.
And C.J. Stroud hasn't gotten his feet. And then Nico Collins came out of nowhere. And as much as I love the Texans, I'm going Ravens. I'm a bias. I don't care what you say.
What was that?
Respect.
As much as I love the Texans
goodness.
and you're going for your favorite team?
Yeah. There is a difference.
Surprise.
All right, so the Baltimore kid goes for Ravens, right? Right outside of Baltimore, whatever you want to say it. Ravens, to me, look a lot different than they did in 2018. Lamar is 4 years more mature, 4 years more experience. They have Kyle Van Noy, Odell Beckham Jr., Dalvin Cook. This is experience in playoffs and
And
experience
if this
in
was
Super Bowl.
2017, that would be a great cast of names.
Yeah.
It would be, but it's also
Who are your wide
2023, and
receivers?
they have all been in Super Bowls and won Super Bowls.
Dalvin Cook is not.
Kyle Van Noy, no, I said he had playoff experience. Kyle Van Noy has been no, I did. I said
You
Ky-
just
All
said
right,
they've
all
all
right.
been in Super
It's
Bowl.
fine. It's fine. We get what
watch
he
the
means.
video, you'll see what I said. I said
I
Super
don't
Bowl
think
wins
we
and
will.
playoff. Just sit over there with your Texans. All right, the Ravens will win. That is my thought. I believe that because I think the Ravens are much better prepared this year. Lamar still has a chip on his shoulder. People asked him when he beat the 49ers, is this a Super Bowl preview? He said, dude, we're in December. We're not trying to focus on January. You have Kyle Van Noy, Super Bowl. Odell Beckham, they have a Super Bowl, or he has a Super Bowl. You have a lot more talent, a lot more maturity. Like, the person they were looking up to in 2018 was Earl Thomas, who then punched a teammate a year later. Like,
What a
you
dog.
didn't have much.
We didn't boom, baby.
So, to me, I think it will be a close game. I think Texans would do well. I wouldn't be shocked if Texans go out early. But this Ravens team fights hard, and I think they're going to come back, and I think they're going to win it.
I mean, I have to agree. I think that this Ravens team a lot better in terms of experience, a lot more years under their belt, which is so important when it comes to football, and especially with a younger Texans team. Who knows if that Baltimore experience maybe comes through, which is something that maybe not a lot of people saw. But that's my favorite game of this playoffs, but that should be a fun one. Later on that day, we have the number 1 seed out of the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers. They're hosting the Green Bay Packers, who just, I don't even know if you could say dominate, blew out the Dallas Cowboys. They won by a lot, and they're one of the hottest teams in football right now. So are the Packers going to do it once again? Are they finally going to beat the 49ers in the playoffs, or are the 49ers going to get their number once again and go to the NFC Championship game?
My roommate's a Packers fan. We watched that Cowboys game. We're so happy. It was, 42-16 in the fourth or third? One of those quarters, but late in the game. As much as I love the Packers this season, I still think it'll be the Niners. They've had their number for past playoffs, and they've got a significantly more skilled team this year than the Packers. But the Packers are up and coming. They're young. They have nothing to lose, which makes you extremely dangerous in the playoffs, and they can make this game interesting.
The 49ers are winning the Super Bowl, so they're not losing to the Packers.
Ryan?
I have the 49ers, but I'm going to disagree with Toby. I don't think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. 1 seed will not make it to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying. That's what it is. Could it be the 49ers and not the Ravens? Why not? We don't know. It's the NFL. Any given Sunday, any given Saturday, any given day. That's all you're going to put it. But I do see the 49ers winning this, and I see the Lions going to the Super Bowl. I see them beating the divisional round later. Now, if you want to talk about an upset alert, I know Toby told about it earlier. I see the Bucs upsetting the Lions is probably the most likely, just because a little bit of trash talk. I'm just saying it could happen. Again, any given day. But back to this Packers game, I have the 49ers beating the Packers. Packers have a remarkable season, especially with just like their first time. I mean, they have like 12, 13 people, 25 and under. So, but I do think the 49ers will be more experienced. They've been in this situation a lot more than the Packers have. And they have a lot more people that have been through this situation, not just as a team. So I have the 49ers winning.
As a Packers fan, I think this is my time to realize that this has been a success. Killing the Dallas Cowboys last week, very good. This is where the road ends. But I'm still going to pick the Packers. You know, there's the Kirk Cousins curse, right? A team that Kirk Cousins has beat in the regular season has never won the Super Bowl. The 49ers have been beat, has never appeared in the Super Bowl. So the 49ers could be on upset alert. The Packers lost to Kirk Cousins when he was the starter, but Kirk Cousins got hurt halfway through the game, so I'm hoping the curse doesn't apply. My dad is a 49ers fan. I'll be rooting for my dad the rest of the season, but I'll pick the Packers here.
You pulled a B.
That one, my dad.
No.
Shout out Edge.
I mean, I think these are two incredible stories. I think the 49ers, especially with the way Brock Purdy's been playing, especially the way that they've kind of just been surging in the second half of the season, obviously besides the Ravens game. But the Packers, once again, one of the youngest teams in football. They're led by a quarterback who finally has a chance to show what he can do, and boy, has he shown it. That one will be a fun one. One team has got to go, and it's disappointing that's the playoffs, but we'll see what happens Saturday night. Next up, the game that we were talking about, a really fun one, and probably America's game of the week. We have the Detroit Lions, who are hosting a NFL divisional round playoff game. I never thought I would say that. They're hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I don't think I'd ever say this again, Baker Mayfield's the quarterback. So we got Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield, 2 number 1 picks squaring off. One of these teams is going to the NFC Championship game and competing for a Super Bowl, potentially. Which one's going to be?
All right, I have the Lions. Like I said before, this could be, in my eyes, is probably the most likely upset just because now that there's been a little bit of trash talk, so there's a little bit more fire, and when Baker's fired up, you know what can happen. Either it goes really south or really north. So I have the Lions winning, though. I think Baker's proved himself enough this year, so I think the Bucs are in the same position as the Packers, where they don't have anything to lose. So they're a very dangerous team. But I still have the Lions. Lions looked unstoppable. They looked really good they looked really good the whole year. The Rams game looked pretty good for some parts. Obviously, the score was really close, but I have the Lions winning.
I like Baker Mayfield. I'm going to go with the Lions. I think the Lions have a lot of firepower. I think the Lions are riding high right now. I think the Tampa Bay Magic's going to run out. Also, do want to give a shout out to the offensive coordinator, Dave Canales. Nobody's really talking about him. QB coach in Seattle last year, resurrected the career of Geno Smith, now resurrected the career of Baker Mayfield. Is going to be a head coach probably next year.
Yeah, I think Baker is traveling about as far north as he can get in the NFL, so I think the only way this can go is south for him. The Lions are just a better team. The Motor City is going to be rumbling. It's going to be a really, really tough environment for them to play, especially with the weather. Yeah. That was a joke. Bad joke.
How do you not?
We got it.
I got it.
But anyways, yeah, the Lions are winning.
Lions at home. Ford Field, Detroit's been starving for playoff wins for, 30 years. That stadium was so loud against the Rams. They're going to be even louder this week. I'll take the Lions.
And Jared Goff knows how to get it done in the playoffs.
The only thing that really scares me is the holes in the Lions' defense, but they can still do it. They play close with basically everybody. So, yeah.
Yeah, they call them the cardiac cats for a reason. They give their fans heart attacks, and that's just the way it goes. But that was a fun one. That one is the Sunday afternoon game. But the Sunday night game, that probably has the most storylines in football. Chiefs-Bills. And there was the whole controversy. It's Chiefs at Bills. If the Chiefs did play the Bills earlier this season, and that was the whole Kadarius Toney offsides thing. If the Chiefs won that game, they'd be hosting this game. You also have the divisional round where they played each other. This was the whole overtime rule change. Another fun one. But Chiefs at the Bills, the 3 at the 2. Who takes this one? This one's the final game of the playoffs, or at least this round. This one obviously going to be a classic. Who's going to take out this one? Go to the AFC Championship game.
You want me first?
Ryan, you got it.
All right. I drew a little picture because I figured I could bring in the new year. I don't know if you can see it. It's like a little guy running through a table. I'm not really a good artist.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Jeez.
All right, I got Bills.
Did you remember Bills Mafia?
So I got Bills. I think throughout this whole playoffs, both conferences, home field is very big. I think the one field that in all fairness, they're all really big. They're all passionate. Everyone's passionate. But especially most of these home field teams. And I think in the AFC, it's specifically going to be very important to have home field advantage because of the weather. And with that weather, not as many away fans want to come travel. So I got Bills winning. I think they're going to get their comeback or their revenge in the playoffs because they've already gotten in the regular season. And I think they're going to take it. I think they're going to win with snowballs flying at the Chiefs fans, probably. I don't know. That's what the fans of Bills do. So.
Yeah,
Tables
the Bills are my pick to come out of the AFC. I think the Bills are going to win this game. And I see there's another Bills here, so I'm asking you, Toby, please do what needs to be done for the sake of the panel.
I'll defer to you.
All right. Well, America is rooting for the Bills. I think Chiefs are pretty hated right now.
For sure.
So please, God, win this game. Please.
Toby, I'm asking you
As
for
much
the
as
sake
I
of the
hate
panel.
the Bills too.
Do
Give
it.
me the Chiefs, man.
Thank you.
Give me
Thank
the
you.
Chiefs.
I owe you one.
Patrick Mahomes is going on the road for the first time in his playoff career, and he is going to dominate. Josh Allen has not put together 2 straight good games this entire season. He hasn't had a passer rating over 100 for 2 straight games. He hasn't gone 2 straight games without throwing a pick. And guess what he did last week? He did both those things. So he is going to throw a pick this week, and he's going to have a passer rating below 100. Plus, the weather's going to be good. I know they both play in bad weather, so it shouldn't really affect either team. There's going to be snow up until Sunday, but there will be no snow Sunday. The Chiefs are going to go in there, and they're going to take down the Bills. The Bills are not going to look good. I just don't see it happening. They have been up and down this entire season. Obviously, they've gotten really hot these last few weeks. They found a way to make it in the playoffs. They got that 2 seed. They're hosting this game, but I don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes. Taylor Swift is going to be freezing in that box, but she's going to have a smile on that face the entire game.
Chiefs defense will keep them in it.
Yep.
That'll be
I
the
was about to say,
reason
their
they
offense.
win, if they win.
Like, I don't really trust
But
them.
I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. He's the new, for me, he's not Tom Brady, but I'm not going to bet against him.
But how do you feel when I say that Lamar has more away playoff wins than I'm not even joking. Like,
Well,
this is
Patrick
Patrick
Mahomes has never had to play an away game.
I'm just saying.
You know how many? Lamar has infinitely more losses than Patrick Mahomes.
It's true.
What'd you say?
Lamar
that
has
stat.
infinitely more losses away than Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes. Yeah.
I just wanted
He's
to see the
infinitely
fact.
more losses in general.
You were the one that pointed out stats. I just pointed out a stat.
That's a fair
Lamar
point.
has a 1. Patrick Mahomes has a goose egg.
That's a fake stat.
But also, this is the
Right
Chiefs.
now, though.
This is
Right now. Yeah, right now. I'm not going to say he's not going to win away.
This is the Chiefs' revenge arc.
He's the next coming
because
of the goat.
they are counted out. Everyone is against them. People think they've had a terrible season. They're just not that great.
that's
And
what
you know what?
scares me.
They're going to shock the world. I think they could win the Super Bowl.
I'm just curious if the Chiefs.
I think they're my favorite to
they
come
will.
out of the AFC. And if they make the Super Bowl, they're winning.
I'm just curious if Rasheed Rice, other than Rasheed Rice, can anyone else catch a ball in cold weather?
Travis Kelce might not be able to catch a ball.
Yeah, we'll see.
Now with
I'm just saying,
Maybe
it might be better if
maybe
Taylor Swift wasn't.
Maybe Taylor Swift can warm him up before the game or something.
Maybe Taylor Swift can stay outside this. I'm just thinking, I don't know. Ever since Taylor Swift has become with Travis Kelce and all, and like the whole thing happened, Travis Kelce has not been himself. So maybe it's a case where she's, on the outside. Maybe she's not. Who knows? Maybe it's a good luck. This might be the turnaround game.
Well, you know how Taylor Swift says, karma is the guy on the Chiefs running straight home to me.
Mahomie.
I'm
Very Mahomie.
And listen, I'll give you my pick too because I don't want to leave Toby alone. I have the Chiefs in the game. I think the Chiefs are going to. It's Patrick Mahomes' first game away, and I think everything points towards the Chiefs winning this. It's just one of those where you just like. Anywho, those games are all going to be awesome. We'll be talking about them next week. But that's going to be doing it for us for this episode of The Extra Point. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has just been awesome to be back here in the studio. Don't worry, this is only the first of many for this spring semester. But until next week, we'll see you on another episode of The Extra Point. See ya.